You know, everyone has a weak moment, and I've just had mine just recently when I tuned my radio into the world of the disenchanted, the self-absorbed, the self-righteous, but the downtrodden world of the hand-wringing NIMBY battlers world to News Talk ZB. Now, you know, I can't make up my mind as to whether I'm a fan of talkback radio or not, but every now and again I tune to it just to hear what the subject is getting up the noses of the nation's hand-wringers. Not once, but twice I tuned in. The first time there was this huge topic gripping the nation which had to be discussed on the subject of the frequency of taking a shower. I know. Now, whether it be once, twice a day, a week, or not at all, we had to find out. But the best call came from a guy who said, well, he only has to have one a month, but only if he needs it. The whole half hour I listened was extremely entertaining, as it gave me a real insight into the showering habits of New Zealanders. But I have to say, it was great radio. On another occasion, I listened into just one call to Kerry Woodham's morning show, and just one call, to be honest. It was enough. The caller, a real overthinking hand-wringer, was complaining about the government using billions of dollars over the past 2 years on our Defence Force. He mentioned 10 billion, but the official figure is actually close to 13 billion. But he went on and asked, and I'm not sure if this was a question was intentionally phrased this way, he said, but really, what bang do we get for our bucks? He mouthed off about the wisdom of our expenditure on the military when we as a nation have decaying hospital buildings and child poverty, and his list was quite extensive. Now, good old Kerry Woodham admitted that she has a brother who's in the service and was able to speak about New Zealand's role with the Allies and New Zealand taking its place in the world. I thought her answers were reasonable, but not to her challenging caller, who was on a bit of a tangent. But somehow his call ended. Such is the mystery of talkback. But I did think the question was one to ponder, and I did. And the more I thought about it, he was right. Maybe I too had become an overthinker, but in a way I agreed. When it comes to the military, you don't get much bang for $10 billion or 13 billion, as the truth was. Now, personally, I'm not a fan of war or the military hardware, but like you, I have an expectation that if a young man or woman is prepared to put their lives on the line when our country is being threatened, we need to be equipped with the latest equipment and discipline to do their job. So $13 billion is around 1 to 1.5 of New Zealand's GDP. I have in recent years watched a government squander a lot more than 13 billion, and I believe me, for the bucks they've spent, there's hardly been a whimper. But raising the subject of defence opens up many cans of worms, and one question is one's own safety gets raised. We don't have, and probably not likely in years to come, have a foreign navy flotilla off our shores, but every day we as citizens of New Zealand, we're involved in a war which is life-threatening. It's one which is fought not on the battlefield, but it's one that's fought right here in the mind. You see, every conflict an army faces comes down to good versus evil, and that's also dependent on which army you have in front of you. I've often used the term from an English writer, Gerald Seymour, who said, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. But the battle for your mind has been one which started from the moment of conception. All through life, we battle ourselves to do what is right, and sometimes we end up doing something wrong. But again, it comes back to what you personally believe is right in your eyes. Culturally, we're all different, and our views are based on society in which we live. If you like, what village you're raised in. So, where am I going with this today? Well, we want our soldiers to be equipped with everything they need. We want them to be trained, focused, ready for combat. We want them to be prepared to put their lives on the line for us, right? So we spend just shy of $13 billion for them and their hardware because we don't want, or well, basically we're not going to do it ourselves, are we? So we pass our burden of responsibility onto these young men and women to defend and uphold what it is that our country believes in, but really is to save our lives. But I have to ask you today, and I'm asking seriously, is New Zealand worth saving? What is it that we as a country hold dearly that has to be saved? Currently, we live in such a divided country. What portion of that do you want saved? What side of the country do you want these young people, these young soldiers to defend? What principles of New Zealand do you want them to die upholding? When you look at New Zealand, ask yourself, is it worth saving? Well, my answer to that is yes. I have to say that because I have love for both this country and for the people who make it up. Unfortunately, this comment is going to fall on deaf ears, mainly because New Zealand is no longer a country, as described in Psalm 33:12 as being blessed as a nation whose God is the Lord. As a nation, we can sing every day that song which declares, God defend New Zealand. Funny, it's never America or Australia, but it's God. And it's the same God this country has pushed out of every corner of our country, and because we've done so, you'd think we would take responsibility for our own defence. Yeah, we live in a country where we expect, because of our self-entitlement, our what can you do for me mentality, expect some other entity to defend our free land, and that someone that we call on is quite clearly God. Now, if you were God looking at New Zealand, would you? We've forgotten Jesus' command to love your neighbour as you would yourself. Honestly, there are still some good people who are prepared to look and say and love their neighbours, and unfortunately we have continuing examples each day of the depths that we can go. Our continuing rate of killing of defenceless children in the womb continues to climb. But you know what? I didn't think we could go lower than that, but when we see others filming via live streaming the carnage, the bodies, the survivors of a horrific crash on Auckland's southern motorway recently, which claimed the lives of 3 people, rather than ask themselves, what can we do to assist? No, their thoughts were, how can I increase my likes on Facebook? How much of this a hero can I be for holding my phone and stream other people's darkest moments? I call the battle of the mind. But just like any battle, there is good and there's evil. We need to take personal responsibility, not just for our actions, but also what is on our minds. If our minds are God-centric, then we'll do what is right and just in his eyes. If we fill our minds with the sewage and garbage rampant in our society, then we have to ponder, why would you want to save something which is upside down and so inside out? Let me give you a biblical thought on this one from Isaiah 5:20. It says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. If we are personally going to confront the enemy on a daily basis, then you know what? We need to ensure that we have the right equipment, the right mindset, the right hardware to face them. And friends, the good news is, we don't have to spend $13 billion every couple of years to ensure that we're well equipped to save not just our lives, but others as well. Yeah, I'm not sure what a copy of the Bible is at your local Christian store, but if you can't afford one, maybe touch base with your local church. The question is New Zealand as a country worth saving? Does it have the values and the moral fibre to be a great nation? Does it uphold the principles of my belief? Really, what is it I'll be fighting for? And what is it I'd be prepared to die for? I'll let you answer that one. Hey, thanks for watching. As with every video we post, we'd love to hear your comments, and we're appreciative of you sharing and subscribing. But right now, as everybody who listens to Talkback Radio knows, it's time to have a cup of tea and a lie down.